All right, guys. I don't usually dive headfirst into rumors, but it's the off season and things are sort of slow. So we're going to do just that today. There are rumors circulating that Scott Stricklin, Florida's current athletic director, is the lead candidate for the open Texas A&M AD job. Texas A&M's AD was plucked by Ohio State, so that is what created the opening. Now, I'm going to start by saying I do not have any inside information that there is truth to this rumor. So I'm not saying it's about to happen. I'm not saying I've heard anything particular outside of the fact that I've heard the rumor, just like I'm sure you guys have seen it on message boards, in different social media circles, things like that. But I do think that this move could make a lot of sense. But before we get into all of that, just this past week, Scott Stricklin was asked about Billy Napier's job security. He answered that Napier was definitely not on the hot seat, which is likely the least surprising answer ever. I believe very strongly that Scott Stricklin's job is tied to Coach Napier's success or failure at the University of Florida. So I can totally understand why Scott Stricklin is not falling all over himself to throw Coach Napier under the bus or to even put timelines on how long he has at the University of Florida or what he must do to continue to keep that job. Best case scenario for Scott Stricklin as the athletic director at the University of Florida is that this upcoming season, Billy Napier has a bowl eligible team. There's progress. They're moving in the right direction. They go into 2025 with what could be a generational quarterback leading their offense, and this team has turned the corner. That would be best case scenario for Scott Stricklin. But worst case scenario, the wheels fall off this upcoming season. I don't believe that Scott Stricklin gets to hire another football coach. I think if Napier goes, Stricklin goes. So I can totally understand why he's not going to publicly say, hey, we've read him the riot act, or he knows what the bar is, or whatever else. It behooves him to let everybody know that he's been given time. And truthfully as well, I do think that when Napier was hired, he was promised a particular window of time, 4 years, 5 years, something like that to build. Now, results matter. How you get to those results probably matter even more. Your record against your rivals, even aside from your overall record, matter. So I think those are all things that are taken into consideration. But I don't think that Scott Stricklin is in any hurry to make any moves, because if he does, he's probably out too. Now, Stricklin's tenure here has been marred by some controversy, particularly at women's soccer and women's basketball. He had to hire and then fire women's basketball coach Cam Neubauer. He was faced with accusations of racism, sexism, physical and verbal abuse, all of this coming from current players and their families on the team. He only lasted there a very short window of time before he was replaced, but it seemed like it went on longer than it probably needed to before Stricklin was willing to move. Soccer, Tony Amato was a soccer coach. He was only there for 1 year. Players complained of sexism and some unusual methods, comments about their weight, different, a coaching style that this team was not fond of. Now, in Stricklin's defense, he acted quickly and he fired Amato after only 1 season. But in reports that were done after the firing, there were a lot of former players from Amato's at Arizona who had very similar things to say about his coaching methods. So it seems like had Scott Stricklin done a little bit more of his homework, maybe that hiring and then obviously subsequent firing could have been avoided entirely. But here we are, right? Not only did he have those controversies that have kind of marred his tenure here at the University of Florida, there's been poor performances across both football and men's basketball while Scott Stricklin has been the athletic director. When he took over, Jim McElwain was the coach. We all know how that tenure turned out. Stricklin hired Dan Mullen, which, to be fair to Stricklin, was a hot hire at the time. Another top program would have plucked him from Mississippi State if it hadn't been Florida, but he hired who he was comfortable with because he was the previous AD at Mississippi State. Obviously, that did not work out either. When you look at basketball, he fired Mike White, rightfully so, but I think for Gator fans, it took a lot longer than, maybe some of us would have liked. The writing was kind of on the wall there. And actually, he didn't actually fire him. He got hired by Georgia, but then he gets to hire Todd Golden, who was an interesting hire, a young hire, not a name that anybody really had a ton of familiarity with. Definitely not somebody who had big clout in the SEC or anything like that. And he has somewhat underperformed. Now, he still has a little bit of time on the clock because it is a more recent hire, but definitely not a slam dunk by any means. And Stricklin was brought here to continue a winning tradition. He's fundraised really well. He's helped us pull off a brand new, beautiful indoor facility. We have gotten a brand new baseball stadium, things that Stricklin is known for, those buildings, that fundraising. But that winning tradition has just not continued under him. So, this would maybe not be the worst thing for Gator fans. It may be time for some new blood and for us to be able to get back to that winning tradition. So if Texas A&M were to hire him away, maybe that's perfect, right? Kind of for both parties. I think there are pros and cons to this happening. The pro is there is this pervasive opinion throughout the Gator fan base that Stricklin does care more about buildings than he does about NIL. And for Florida to be successful in football and in basketball, Florida has got to care about NIL from the top down. Now, I fully understand the NCAA rules that govern what a school can and can't do in regards to NIL. There is nothing that keeps Scott Stricklin from promoting NIL. There is nothing that keeps him from pointing big boosters to Florida Victorious, saying to these guys, hey, listen, you got $100,000 that you want to spend? Let's have you donate it to this group, this collective, Florida Victorious, and let's help Florida start winning. That is the kind of thing that these top programs that are getting lots of NIL money are doing. He can't fundraise it himself. The university can't pay it. He absolutely, without certainty, can point boosters in the direction of Florida Victorious and tell them that that is where the university needs the most help. And he's not doing it. If you follow Florida Victorious on social media, when is the last time that you have seen a Gator administrator or coach retweet any of their tweets calling for donations? Now look at some of the top profiles of some of the other major coaches in college football. Go check out Lane Kiffin's Twitter. Go check out Jim Harbaugh, some of these other coaches, and look at how many times they promote the collectives for their school. That is part of this puzzle. And I don't know what it is about Stricklin. I know the University of Florida wants to be incredibly careful. They don't want to break the rules. They don't want Florida to end up with any sort of sanctions or punishments or anything else. And I get that and fully appreciate it. But we're stuck in the Stone Ages when it comes to our administration's view of NIL. And that starts with Scott Stricklin. Stricklin can change opinions, minds, hearts, however you want to phrase it, if he would get fully on board with NIL. Now, if he were to take the Texas A&M job, we have an opportunity to test that theory, to test the theory that maybe Napier is being held back by the fact that we have an administration that appears to not embrace NIL. That opportunity would be right there. Now, the con is that Napier's seat potentially gets even hotter. Napier succeeding is tied to Stricklin's success as the athletic director at Florida. Like I said earlier, I don't think he would be in any hurry to make a move to fire Coach Napier because it's mutually assured destruction. A new AD will not come in with that attitude. So while Napier may be thrown a lifeline in terms of maybe this would have a person come in with a whole new attitude towards NIL and a embracing of the direction that college football is heading, but at the same time, the rope would get shorter. Your athletic director will probably want to bring in their own guy, which means they could be looking for reasons to be able to make that move. If a new AD comes in, I do think the list of demands from Napier probably gets longer and the amount of time he has to accomplish those probably gets shorter. And that is a con in my book. I want to see Coach Napier succeed and I want him to have the time to do it. I just think everybody wants to see the program inching in the right direction. Whether this happens or not with Texas A&M, it likely brings up a bigger point, which we've mentioned, but haven't spoken specifically about in this video. If Napier doesn't achieve a bowl game or a winning record, we're likely not only in the market for a new head coach, but we're likely in the market for a new athletic director too. So what does this mean for UF athletics in general? First of all, it's a fresh start, right? The slate gets wiped clean. It's the opportunity for a new focus, right? This athletic department for the past 10 years has been focused on growing buildings. Look at our new, gorgeous, amazing indoor facility, right? It's got everything. It's got the locker rooms. It's got a nutrition center. It's got weight rooms. It's got everything you can imagine. And this would have been a great thing for Urban Meyer to have in the early 2000s when facilities really mattered. We were a little late to the game in that. So Florida probably has the best standalone football facility at the moment, but that's not what kids are looking for now. Now, we got a brand new, gorgeous baseball facility during Stricklin's time. We got an entirely new lacrosse program, but lacrosse field, facility, all of those things. That has been the focus of University of Florida athletics. Even look at the giant project for the stadium. Buildings. That's been the focus. But now we can turn that page. We can focus more on where college athletics is at this exact second, which is NIL. And I think I agree and I can see the argument that, the way that things are going is unsustainable. So putting too many eggs in one basket when this will probably eventually change may not be the smartest move. And I can understand that. But if you want to win now, you better play the game now. And the game at this moment is NIL. There's also a pervasive rumor that the UAA puts their thumb on this too much. And, I think we talk about it like there's somebody behind the screen moving the puppets, right? And I don't know if that is true or not, but that's been the pervasive rumor for years. And you can just look no further than Mark Hawk still being on staff at the University of Florida, getting paid $750,000 to have a title that none of us know what is at this moment. He was the strength and conditioning program. He was fired because that program wasn't getting stuff done, but we didn't want to pay his buyout. So he's still technically on payroll. Doing what? I don't know. And I'm sure he's a great guy, right? But I don't think we should be in the business of employing great guys because they're great guys. I think we fish and cut bait if their job isn't getting accomplished. But if that's not Stricklin's call, whose call is it? It seems that it wasn't Billy Napier's call for him to still be on staff, but here he is. So, I think that maybe that's something that needs to be looked at. Put that priority on NIL. Do it legally, do it the right way, but work with Florida Victorious, raise the money, get it done. There are other programs that have the blueprint for success. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just look at what other programs are doing legally and successfully. All in all, in the coming days, we will see if this rumor has any legs. We'll see what comes of it. I don't know. I'd imagine Texas A&M doesn't take a super long time to make a decision. They've got the money. They've got the focus. Will they move quickly? I don't know. Will it impact UF? Well, we're going to find out. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, for your support, go Gators.